This is Mark Bell from SuperTraining Gym, the strongest gym in the West. We're here today inside of Slingshot World Headquarters, and I'm doing a Q&A, which stands for questions and answers, for the carnivore diet. The first question that comes up is from Christopher Barham. Mr. Barham says, how do you set your macros for the carnivore diet? Well, it's very scientific. I call up Lane Norton, I get in conversation with him, I have him ship over the documents over to NASA, they throw it into their computer, and what they end up spitting out is an algorithm for a very specific diet for me that allows me to be a step ahead of every other human being on the planet. No, more seriously, it's very, very easy, and I give myself a very broad range, so I love to be minimum always and forever since the time I was a kid. So as soon as I learned about protein, I went 1 gram per pound of body weight with protein. From that time, I've been on many different diets, ketogenic style diets, I've done bodybuilding style diets, but whatever I've done, I've always kept the protein high. I feel that protein keeps you at a really good advantage. It helps drive down hunger and drive down cravings, keeps you satiated, also helps you with muscle mass. I would even make an argument, and I would go as far to say as I think protein should maybe not only not count as a calorie, but I would put it in the category of exercise. And here's why. The reason why I say that is eating more protein assists with you holding on to the muscle mass that you currently have. It can also encourage your body to gain more muscle mass if you're weight training and if you're doing other exercises. So I view that as being very supportive of your exercise. And when you have something that's supportive of your exercise and supporting of your muscle mass, the more muscle mass that you have, the more calories that you chew up. So if you're going to eat more food anywhere in your diet, it can come from 2 places without you getting any more fat risk, and that would be from your protein sources, and that would also be from your fiber sources, but you may want to be careful on how much fiber you consume because it can start to be rough on your stomach. Here's what I do. Here's what I actually do. I just go like this. I take my body weight, which is 240 pounds. Some people like to take like their lean mass and all these different things. Now, if you're using kilos, I got nothing for you. You know, I think if you're using kilos, convert your body weight into pounds and try it this way. Or, you know, look up from another reputable source on how you get to how many grams of protein you should be eating per day. But I go 240 and I go times 1.5 equals 360. So that's 1.5 grams of protein per pound of body weight that I weigh. So I go somewhere between that and I go all the way up. Sometimes it's usually below this because this is tough to get. I will do 2 times 240. So I'm anywhere between 360 and 480 grams of protein a day. That's what I try to do. I don't always get there. I try, but what I've learned is if I'm not hungry, I don't eat. I got a real simple concept. You know, when I'm hungry, I eat. When I'm not hungry, I don't eat. I try to really live by that, even sometimes when I'm fasting and when I'm going back and forth between fasting and not fasting. What I'll try to do is, if I feel really hungry on a particular day, I won't break the fast that day, but the next day I just won't fast. I try to be really reasonable with myself because I know that that hunger signal, it means something, and it means that I'm going to be thinking about food too much, and I'd rather not think about food. I'd rather just consume it and get it over with and be thinking about the day, not so much thinking about and being so attached to food. So I don't count any other calories. I don't count fat grams. I don't count carbohydrates. What I would advise you to do, especially in the case of a carnivore diet, is I would really stick to just eating meat, making sure you're full, making sure you're satiated, and then also making sure that you're satisfied. Making sure that you're feeling really good with the decisions that you made for the day, and make sure that you are enjoying the taste of every single meal. I do this through eating lots of steak, sometimes some cheeseburgers, as well as some eggs, sometimes some scrambles. What I would advise against is eating enormous amounts of fat. And the reason why I say I would avoid that is if you're a good eater, then if you are eating fat and protein all day, it'll be kind of tough to lose weight. Now, I don't mind that for the beginning of the diet. However, as you get into the teeth of the diet and as you get into the nuts and bolts of the diet, so to speak, I would love to see you lean a little bit more towards leaner sources of protein. That's when we would go to a filet mignon, a New York strip, a top sirloin. Now, if you're wondering about price and those things are a factor, go to Costco and you can get top sirloin for pretty expensive. They also reheat pretty well. You can find things that are on sale. You can also flip-flop back and forth between beef, whitefish, and chicken, and maybe even throw in some egg whites here and there. Eggs in general are very inexpensive. The only reason why I said egg whites is just because egg whites are just pretty much 100% protein. Chicken breast is pretty much 100% protein. Another thing that can help with cost, because I know that's a concern all the time with everybody, is just like rotisserie chicken, cheese, things like that are pretty low cost. But that's how I select my macros. I eat anywhere between 2 to 4 times a day, and as you could see, eating that amount of protein in 2 meals would be really, really hard. So on those days that I only eat twice, it's very difficult for me to get to those numbers. On days where I eat 3 or 4 times, it's a little easier. For today, let's see, it's 1:30, and I'm already at 150 grams of protein for the day. So I got about another 200 grams of protein to go. My next meal will probably be at 3. I'll probably eat another meal at 6, and I should be able to knock out the rest of the protein for the day, and then wake up tomorrow and start it all over again. Let me get to the next question. Okay, this is a great question. This is from Livia, and I want to say that, as I mentioned earlier, I appreciate everybody that's on here, but we appreciate them ladies. We need more ladies on this channel. There's a lot of information that's great for everybody. Male, female, doesn't matter. Also, the nutritional information. I think sometimes when we talk about meat, we somehow think that's like a manlier thing to do rather than a female thing to do, but I think this diet can be helpful to anybody. And Livia says that she's asking the question about the carnivore diet for women. She's 47 years old. Congrats on that too, for sticking with training and for, I think a lot of younger people think when they're 40 that their life's over and that they're getting old and so forth. But a lot of people that are in their 40s now recognize, like, hey, this is just the start of my journey. I'm gonna get in the gym and I'm gonna kick some ass, or even when you can't get to the gym, you're still gonna train and figure out ways of getting in shape. But her main question is it possible to train and gain muscle definition when you're 47 years old? Absolutely. 100%. I would say if you're untrained, you can almost always gain muscle mass, but you should be able to gain some muscle mass for quite some time. It just depends on how long you've been training for, though, too. So if you've been training for a really long time, it'll be harder to gain more muscle mass. However, your question has a little bit to do with definition too, because you say and gain muscle definition. So muscle and muscle definition are a little bit different. If we're talking about wanting to see muscle, well, we can get leaner at any age. However, it also is important to have some muscle so that when you do shrink down, when you do slim down, when you do lose some body fat, there's something to show for underneath. Sometimes I've had some friends over the years say, hey, I lost like 60 pounds. And I'm like, that's great. But I'm thinking to myself, that guy looks like a melted candle. Like, he doesn't look so good. He just kind of went like Frosty the Snowman on me. And I don't like the new look. It's not looking great. They like lose their shoulders and stuff. So nobody wants that, male or female. Nobody wants that. And that also will kind of screw with your metabolism. And the second that you start craving some of those foods that made you heavy in the first place, you're going to go back to being heavy very, very quickly. Because now, as you start to eat more food, you have less muscle mass on you. So the key is always muscle mass. We always need to be considerate of that. We need to eat protein and we need to lift weights. Eat protein and lift weights. Those things are massively important to your general health and just to be able to fend yourself off and stay away from junk food, week in and week out. All right, thanks for the question. On to the next one. The next question is from Sanchez Mac. It's a cool name. I like that. Sanchez Mac says, I'm 26 years old, 5'10", 180 pounds. And he says, how much weight can I lose if I follow this diet, being the carnivore diet, for a month or 2? It is very, very difficult for me to give you a flat out number on how much weight you will lose. That would be highly dependent on how much body fat you have to lose, but you did say you're 5'10" and 180. So to me, that already sounds like you don't have a lot of body fat to lose. I think also having your mind wrapped up in just losing weight may be a mistake, especially someone who's 5'10" and 180. You want to go by the weight and the way you look in the mirror. Because you want to hold on to that muscle mass. Again, we don't want to lose that muscle mass because it can be detrimental to the overall look. It can be detrimental to your overall metabolism because now the less muscle mass that you have, the less calories your body will be burning. My boy Nsima, the Natty Professor, he's about 6'1", 6'2". He's about 250 pounds. He's probably always under 10% body fat. That guy's body is a machine. It's constantly burning energy. It constantly needs energy. And so therefore, if someone like Nsima, you know, people are like, oh, he can eat wherever he wants. Well, not really. He can't eat whatever he wants. He has more play than a lot of us because he has less body fat and he has more muscle mass. So his body is doing the work for him. He doesn't necessarily have to spend tons and tons of time doing cardio to try to work it off, to try to balance out his energy. What I would say is this, is that in 1 month's time of doing the carnivore diet, I would say it's very common to see a lot of people, I'm not going to say all, but it's very common for a lot of people to lose about 10% of their body weight. So somebody that weighs 200, they might lose about 20 pounds. Somebody weighs 300, they might lose about 30 pounds. But even in throwing out figures like that, I need to be a little cautious and a little responsible and say that the smaller folks, the people that weigh less, they're probably going to just lose about 5% of their body weight. You know, somebody that weighs 165 that's starting this, they're probably going to lose about 5% of their body weight. So they'd lose like 8 pounds or something like that, rather than them losing like 16 pounds, okay? So those are things to keep in mind. Women tend to lose weight a little slower than men. And again, there's multiple reasons for that, but normally I think it has to do with the amount of muscle mass, the amount of strength that men sometimes have over women. So those are some things to consider. And I would say, so if you weigh 180, to answer your question truthfully, I would say you could probably lose about 15 pounds. I would have the goal of losing about 10 pounds because I'm a fan of setting your goals, but having your goals be very attainable. Because when your goal is a challenge, but it's obtainable and you get there, the response that you get from your brain, the response that you get from your body is fantastic because you challenge yourself to do something that's a little bit difficult. It was difficult enough, you actually prove to yourself that you're able to do it. Remember, that's what this channel is all about. This channel is all about you guys proving yourselves to yourself and improving yourself for yourself and not for anybody else. Strength is never a weakness. Weakness is never a strength. In the comments below, please ask more questions. It could be any question that you have on any diet. It doesn't have to be just a carnivore diet. And for those of you that have never seen it before, please check out my book, The War on Carbs. In my opinion, it's the best book ever written. It's the most simple book that I think that you can possibly find that talks about low carb dieting. Strength is never a weakness. Weakness is never strength. Catch you all later.